at the end of this long conveyor belt, they'll have, rollers, which are maybe just a half an inch above the cylinder, and they'll give the grapes the first crush. And from there they'll go into fermentation. Right? Some of them, depending on what they're doing in that, they go into what's called a bladder press. I don't know if anybody showed you one of those or not. They kind of look like a fermentation tank tipped on its side. So you're going to have partially crushed grapes, usually it's partially crushed grapes, in there. And then there's a balloon on the inside of this cylinder. There's no grapes inside of the balloon, that's just filled with, variety of liquids and that, and they'll pump more in and expand it, and that will further crush the grapes against the inside of that cylinder wall. That's more of a second crush device. And then so first crush, second crush, they may blend the two together. Might be grapes out of, the same lot. Although not necessarily. Some of the wine process. I haven't said anything about raptors, and that we are apparently having an early northern hawk migration season due to the warm weather. And I've seen a few different species roosting or in flight. The whole country has red-shouldered hawks, maybe the most successful species of hawk on the North American continent. They're buzzard hawk, they call them buteos, and they're going to go after little four-legged critters. They're a male, they have a rufous-colored tail, and black and white feathered mosaic pattern on the undersides of the wings. 56-inch wingspan up to that. But we've sighted red-shouldered hawks, white-tailed kites, which kind of look like a seagull. Actually, kind of a medium-sized hawk. What's that seagull doing out over this vineyard? If you see something that looks like a seagull. I mean, here it's this white gull. It has black-tipped feathers, but you look closely, it has a very hooked beak and rather lethal-looking talons, and it's just hovering and hovering in the same spot, longer than a red tail will hover. That kind of behavior is one reason for that common name designation of kite. If you like bird watching, and that the best time of the year to be in the Bay Area is the fall for the southern migration, because then what's happening is you have the hawks have I don't know when they weren't in the habit of this, but basically they get funneled to the peninsula part of Marin County, where they've got the ocean on one side, the bay on the other side, and they look out, and here's the Golden Gate Strait, and they're just circling above you on a hawk hill. There are ornithologists and others photographing them, lay people, bird programs every Saturday and Sunday in September and October. The hawks seem inordinately cooperative, and what must be going on in their hawk brain, because again, they tend to be buzzard hawk species. They're not sea hawks, they're not diving for fish just offshore. They see this big body of water, the Golden Gate Strait, and they must be thinking, you gotta be kidding. Why would I want to fly across that? I'm not going to find anything to eat down there. And they figure out, well, I don't have any choice. I'm going to do it. And as they do it, you're photographing them and they're soaring above your head. And then they'll just shoot across the Golden Gate Strait much faster than I could drive you across it. That area up in the Marin Headlands associated with Hawk Hill, we'll drive up to sometimes, but it's become just so popular that now there's a loop road. I mean, in terms of doing a scenic camera stop of the Golden Gate Bridge, if I could just drive drive up a 2-lane road up into the headlands, that'll be a great place, a swell place, to just knock your socks off with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. But they've turned it into a one-way loop, and I'd have to add about 4 miles, a lot of minutes onto the tube. Take you through an old army tunnel where there might be a 5-minute wait, one-way controlled traffic. Now here, there's a little bit of water on the right. You can imagine in an intense rainy season, that lake entirely covering the road you're on right now. Here's Sears Point Raceway in front of you. And look at the sign that says Sonoma Land Trust on the right. There's been this great public and private nonprofit partnership between these nonprofits and different governmental entities. And that, like a land trust might go out and battle developers over this or that parcel of land. And if you know somebody in a land trust, look out. They're going to be hitting you up for money big time. And let's say they succeed in buying a 5-acre parcel here or there. What they're going to want to do is get this or that governmental entity to. And it looks like you have maybe one of the Aero Shelville planes. I think that's the 1940 crop duster there on the left. They want $300 for 20 minutes to go up in that. And if you want them to, in that open cockpit, you and them, there's a hawk watching it on the right. They'll barrel roll and they'll loop the loop in the open cockpit, so you might want to watch, see if they're doing that. They're on the left. We might, I actually, years ago, I asked my wife if she would get me that as a birthday present for that, a ticket for that. And she said, oh yeah, that's right, I'm familiar with that. I have a name for that. That is the You Never Will Do Such an Insane and Dangerous Tour in Your Life, Doug Tour. I'll buy you a ticket for that, and it's free. Anyhow, there's your crop duster. It gets better, it gets better. They have vintage World War II fighter planes, including, if you've got an extra $1,667 to spend, I don't know if it's for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, I hope it'd be for an hour, you go up in a P-51 Mustang, which they dub as the fighter which won World War II. And I'm just going to say that when I get guests who live in the UK, they sometimes will howl and protest, and they'll say, that was the bloody Spitfire, mate, get it right. Hey, you know, maybe so. At least in the Battle of Britain. Here we have a hawk watching my speed. Now on the left, this is San Pablo Bay Wildlife Refuge. It was about 2015 that a 5,000-acre parcel was sold to the federal government from the Sonoma Land Trust with the stipulation that the channel you see on the left would be made. So actually in a couple of places, or in one place, or maybe it was 2 places, the dike was broken open and the bay became slightly bigger. A new area flooded and a bunch of little native plants planted. Things with funny names like pickleweed. It's like a miniature pickle. That will help to filter toxins out of your body of water, which can come in handy. You know, the economic basis for the beginning of the grape growing and wine industry in the gold rush was the gold rush, and that. And the fortune some folks were making, relative affluence of some. I mean, don't think that was everybody striking rich. You had a greater chance of dying trying than you did getting rich, and then there was a greater population of folks who just didn't make that much money and gave up on it, or were just employees in the mine. But when it became harder to extract the gold from California, I mean, not just like, for instance, here we have a place called the Nugget. Yeah, sure, that was relatively easy. You pan for golden nuggets in a river. How romantic. I'm not saying it was real easy, but it was relatively easy compared to hard rock mining in the motherlode, the drilling and blasting and that. Then you have gold, but it's all mixed up with earth and rock. How are you going to separate the gold out of it? Well, the way they did it was with mercury plates, cinnabar, and that they would hydrate this mess of gold and earth into a slurry, and then they would slowly wash it on about a 1 degree gradient over these cinnabar plates. The gold would stick, tended to stick, pretty much everything else tended to flow off, and then they could separate it somehow from the cinnabar. If you wanted to go into detail in that, go to California's gold country, to the Columbia, California Mining Museum. You can learn all about it. Well, it worked, but there was an unfortunate byproduct. The mercury would get scored and end up in our water table. Now let's add another group of people into this, folks who, well, they were gold miners, but they also did a lot of hard work, which would not make them rich. The coolies, the Chinese laborers, they built the first, or let's say the western half of the nation's first transcontinental railroad. They're noted for that, but they built a lot of other stuff. Like California's early levees in the 1850s, so the center of the state wasn't always flooded. They did too good of a job of building those things by hand, and many of them lasted until a 100-year flood, you know. Real bad flooding. 1997 was the year. I remember it well. I was kind of bummed out because Yosemite Valley was a lake for a couple of days. At one point, it was under 11 feet of water. And over the course of maybe a month and a half, we had about 300% of our average annual rainfall. Some of those levees broke, and they released a lot of toxins into San Francisco Bay. You know, poor folks will eat the fish out of the bay, and you will see, I guess I could probably, you know, raise this blind on the right. You'll see warning signs, which will say things like, eat no more than 6 portions of striped bass per month on account of elevated mercury levels. I remember when they changed those signs, they literally had them reading, eat no more than a sliver of any type of fish here in 1997 due to mercury. And I mean, that was one of the best vintage years in California history, at least as far as Napa and Sonoma were concerned, because the vines had a good long soaking, and that when there was nothing on them. I mean, you have a good long soaking. When you have grapes or leaves, you're going to have mold and rot. It's going to be terrible, but just dormant vines. So they didn't know right away it was going to be such a wonderful vintage year, but they did know by, let's say, maybe May and June, that they were going to have a crop of a few more grapes on each bunch, and bigger, fatter grapes. Now, if they're bigger and fatter because they have a higher water content, then you're going to have a watery grape. That's not so good at all. You can get those from the Central Valley, but then Mother Nature really gifted us with a rather long cold snap, which prolonged the hang time, the ripening time. So it would have started in July, and it really didn't end until September, so it was a late crush. The skins had thickened, the pulp had, you know, like caught up with the water in the grapes, and the sugar wasn't going way up. You know, if the sugar goes up a lot and you're going to make a dry wine out of those grapes, you're giving the yeast more to eat. And I mean, we're almost back to talking about Zinfandel again. Yeah, you have a dry Zin, and you're picking the grapes at 28, 29%, which is called Brix, B-R-I-X. You saw that restaurant a ways back. You're going to end up maybe with a 16% red wine. Some people really like those. I'm in the mood for one of those every now and then. I mean, there can be so much alcohol in those things that, you know, it'll burn your throat a little bit, but maybe you don't mind having a glass of that, because it's just an incredible fruit bomb. It's not the whole name of the game, but once in a while, something which is fruit with a capital F, why not? fruit and spice. They'll spice them up with American oak barrels. The weave, the grain is not as, let's say, tight as those French barrels. They're the most expensive because I guess that's the tightest oak grain of, like anywhere where they're selling tight oak grain in the world. I know then the sea islets off of Georgia, the state of Georgia, the American state of Georgia, that's very, very tight oak grain. They used it to build what is called the oldest commissioned naval war vessel in the United States, the USS Constitution. I used to take people onto that when I was a tour guide in Boston in the late 80s and early 90s. We're not going to ask them to cut down those fine oaks at this point, though, for wine barrels, of course. Spice it up with looser weave barrels, maybe Tennessee, Missouri. Again, Whitehall Lane. I mean, they're really into American oak there. They'll even use it for Cabernet. I've seen barrels from Minnesota and Wisconsin and a few other states. What about California? Any oak barrels that say California? I've never seen. The looser weave and tends to ruin any sort of wine it attempts to age.
Okay. Okay, so it was like.
Oh my god, that would actually be amazing.
So eventually the natural flush of San Francisco Bay improved the water quality after that 97 water quality disaster. But that was a wake-up call, and there have been a couple of places since then where this project of opening up some old dikes, flooding and planting native plants for the purpose of filtration has gone on, including in the South Bay. When you fly in, sometimes you say, now what's going on down here south of San Francisco? I see these squares of white where there should be the bay, and red and blue and gray. Well, those are salt evaporators. We still have those, but those are shallow areas of the bay, and we also have some increasing areas, or some increased areas.
I think I might do
Water, formerly landfill. Why the landfill up here in a big way? Those were wheat fields in the 1890s with which to feed people. It was a mistake to think they'd be sustainable for wheat fields, for the type of wheat that we can make into bread, and that's bearded wheat. The soil went brackish after about a decade. Now they're suitable for hay farmers and cattle raising. And it's not like every open space owned by a land trust like Sonoma Land Trust is parkland. I mean, they'll make money by, leasing out to hay farmers and then cattle ranchers. Why not? It's part of the 1.1 million acres I mentioned this morning, parkland and open space. again, silhouetted in front of us. We are going to have an architectural moment here in a second. If any of you are science fiction fans, I don't think it did real well at the box office, but maybe you remember the movie from many years ago, Gattaca. If any of you were fans of Gattaca, you are going to see the futuristic headquarters of the space program of that particular society, and you may remember the futuristic looking building with the rocket launches that were on the other side of a hill. They filmed Marin Civic Center, seat of Marin County government, which is a Frank Lloyd Wright building. That was, you see that many times, repeatedly, in Gattaca. I don't know if they mention it in the walking tours. I haven't taken one in a number of years, but you have a rented car, come to Marin County, there's wine, there's hiking, there's, art galleries, and Wednesday and Friday, I believe, 11 to 1, 2 hour, $10 a person walking tour of what I'm going to call the Gattaca building. But Frank Lloyd Wright and the firm finished the design by 58, and it was opened by 62. Here it is in front of us on the left. So visualize a rocket launch in the background on the other side of that hill. So kind of almost looks like a blue bridge that was, kind of Wright's intention. A blue bridge spanning some gentle hills. And then the rounded dome, the courthouse is underneath that. That was meant to suggest one of those hills. Wright called himself a organic architect. And then you have the spike, which gives you a place to put an antenna, hides the boiler room smokestack. And there's Japanese influence on that. There are upturned eaves on each of the three sides, minimalist, Japanese style. Wright designed a bunch of stuff in Japan in the early 1920s. Frank Lloyd Wright himself passed away in, 1961, I believe. Yeah, fancied himself an organic architect, complementing the land, not clashing with the land. I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, you take that rounded dome that you saw, it reminded me of a gentle, rolling California hill. Frankly, it reminds me more of a yarmulke, but maybe that's just me. International fame and notoriety of a bridge in the Bay Area was going to be based on the length of the drive shore to shore across the water. You'd never hear about the Golden Gate Bridge. You might hear about this one on the left. That's the second longest drive across the water. It's 5.5 miles, Richmond-San Rafael Causeway. Usually not very pretty to look at. Longest drive across the water is south of our airport, San Mateo Causeway. 8.25 miles long. There's some nice views out on it, but it's really not a whole lot to look at. I only like to take the Richmond-San Mateo Causeway one way. My wife and I are coming over to Marin County. It's a way of saving some time instead of trying to fight the traffic over the Bay Bridge through San Francisco, then take the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, it'd be free heading out of San Francisco, taking the Golden Gate Bridge, and a toll for me from the East Bay to take the Bay Bridge. And it's a toll for me on both bridges the way I do it. You know, maybe on a Sunday I'll come across the upper deck, which is always, you know, westbound on these bridges. A nice view on Richmond, San Rafael. But they've had problems with this 1950s bridge a couple of times. In fact, most recently, just I think last year or the year before, big chunks of steel and concrete from the bottom of the upper deck of the roadway collapsing onto the lower deck. One of them kind of wiped out the hood of somebody's Beamer. So I don't like to go, and this is also instructions from my wife. We are not driving back over Richmond San Rafael Causeway. So we pay the extra money and come in on the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, as for it, it's all fixed up now on the Richmond San Rafael Causeway. Nothing to worry about, they tell me. Larkspur Bay, it's where the Golden Gate Regional Transit Authority puts its ferry boats to bed at night. Golden Gate Regional Transit Authority owns ferry boats and buses and the Golden Gate Bridge. 6-county entity. So the Golden Gate Bridge was not a Roosevelt WPA project. It was not a state of California project. You know, the Fed said, look, we're building Highway 1 through the Big Sur and other places. Don't bother us over this. San Francisco and California said, hey, we did the Bay Bridge. And Bay Bridge opened up about 6 months before the Golden Gate. So a new entity had to be cobbled together to build the bridge. How are they going to pay for it in the American Depression, you know? I mean, the design was completed, and you know, that was a story, a struggle to figure out how it could be engineered in the first place. That was completed though by 1931. And if I'm going to credit somebody, seeing as maybe some of you have been there, the name which is thrown around is that of Joseph Strauss. He was an engineer, and he was a smart man, and he was smart enough to know that he was not up to the task of designing the Golden Gate Bridge. There was a brilliant professor of engineering out of the University of Chicago in Illinois by the name of Charles Ellis, who actually, he only spent maybe a month in the late 20s and early 30s in San Francisco, and with his little slide rule, he did the engineering calculations for the Golden Gate Bridge that they used. Really quite a job. But then, I mean, how are we going to pay for this thing? The main way was issuing 40-year long bonds in 1931. I mean, that's long for a bond. The longest you're usually going to get is 30 years. 40-year bonds. I can't remember if they, you know, paid you interest, a coupon every year or not. But their principals were honored, and they were all paid off in 1971. That doesn't mean in 1931 people are going to think, oh, okay, well, we're going to have the confidence. I mean, most of those folks would know they wouldn't even be around by 1971 and that. Are they going to tank, you know, or not? Are we going to hear 5 years from now, well, the Bridge Authority is bankrupt? As for the bonds, sorry, you're never going to see any more money. And those people had confidence to buy them because they were backed by what at the time was a very conservative and stable bank. Some of you may chuckle when I tell you the name, Bank of America, back then, okay? B of A. Very highly rated back then. A.P. Giannini was still alive, the founder of Bank of Italy before the 1906 earthquake. He came in really big on the ground floor in real estate redevelopment after 1906, and eventually decided to change the name to Bank of America. Started out actually accepting small depositors' funds from North Beach. You know, there was a bad ethnic stereotype about the Italian. Well, these people They have some money, but they stuff it in their mattresses. Well, yeah, you would too if no banker was going to give you a second look. And that Jimmy changed that. He accepted small deposits. How's this beginning?
That area looks
festivals come October in Mill Valley, up Richardson Bay to the right. They have an organic wine festival. Well, you can see the Salesforce Tower. Rather difficult to see the outline of the Bay Bridge, but there kind of is on the left. And this is where most of the houseboats are in Sausalito. In front of us on the left, the Waldo Point Houseboat Harbor. Sometimes people will come back from a Neil Woods tour and they'll say, what's the big deal with Sausalito with houseboats and art galleries? Where we stopped, there were maybe about a half a dozen commercial art galleries, and there were a few houseboats. Yeah, they're a bit off the beaten path, but there are 293 houses built on floating barges. They want you to call them arcs, and they want you to spell that all fancy in Sausalito. A-R-Q-U-E-S, arcs. Spell it A-R-K-S or A-R-C-S. To me, A-R-C-S to me, I don't really mind. It's Waldo grade. You listen to the traffic report, particularly in the AM, and you'll hear all about it. You know, Sausalito is billed as an artist colony. It's going to be difficult to see, but there's a big beige building over on the left. Now, that was a factory building in World War II. They would pre-assemble parts for the Liberty ships, the type of ships that would supply the OIs, in this case in the Pacific Theater. Mostly women factory workers, right? Rosie the Riveter types and that. That has been converted into a big artist's studio building, and there's space for 80 studio galleries, and most of them are occupied. And any time of the year, any day of the week, during regular business hours, there's always going to be a few artists in there, and they tend to have their doors open, and that's so, you know, Sausalito really is a artist colony. You just gotta know where to look. Only one place the tour industry can stop, which is about a mile away from this place. That's Sausalito, and that, they're more restrictive pound for pound in the tour industry than San Francisco is. In a way, it's understandable. The tour industry does tend to overdo things. It shoots itself in the foot and gets kicked out of this neighborhood or that neighborhood. We're going to cross the bridge and we're going to make our stop on the other side. I'm going to take you deep into the Presidio for that purpose. It's going to come up pretty soon here. I mean, I know this tour can be a little tiring. If you fall asleep and you miss your stop and you end up back at the bus lot, I guess you can just come home with me, and my wife and I in our living room, we have a futon, and we'll, you know, open a bottle of something and have you crash on me, sleep on the futon. There's a bit of a hazard to that, though, and that is our cat, which is very friendly. It likes to lick your eyelids. Have you ever had your eyelids licked by a cat before? It's really painful with that rough tongue. It's not like a dog. There's your Golden Gate Bridge. loves fine wine. Yours can too. I think I'll explain after we do the Golden Gate Bridge stuff. That's a true story.
Oh, yeah.
It's a true assertion. So you see on the right, it's one way. That used to be two ways, and then even in a vehicle this size, you could scoot right up there and do that as a scenic stop. It still would be about 15 minutes. Can't do it anymore. So the Hawk Hill for the birding in September and October is up to the right. Although you take a roundabout way to get there if you're in a car or a bus now. Summit of Hawk Hill is 1,009 feet above sea level. They could call it Hawk Mountain. There's Alcatraz Island on the left. There's our Golden Gate Strait. And this is a good place to get an appreciation of the fact that about 20% of San Francisco itself is parkland. And you know, after New York, San Francisco is the most densely populated American city, at least in the category of an American city with 500,000 or more residents. I mean, no kidding. You do the long division. You even take the 2010 census and you take 805,000 plus people. That's what would have been tallied in 2010 for permanent residents. Divided by 46.2, which is the most correct figure for the square mile of the actual peninsula part of the city in front of us, and that, which is overwhelming the major part of the city. Something like 17,444 people per square mile. So even folks who have the big mansions don't have much in the way of green space, so the parks are important to everybody. Presidio in front of us, we're going to dive into here in a minute. Lincoln Park over on the right, and it's a few hundred acres, and cliff walks, other nature trails, 18-hole golf course, Palace of the Legion of Honor Art Museum, looking at the seal rocks around the corner from it on the right. Between those two parks is the Richmond District neighborhood, and recessed behind it, maybe you make out a Golden Dome, and just on the other side of that is 1,017 acres of Golden Gate Park. Get those cell phones, get those cameras ready. We'll wind our way down. And this is going to be a short, sweet camera stop. Okay, I want to get you back. I got to get you back. I will give you a chance to get out of the bus for a few pictures. Presidio is 1,480 acres. Decommissioned in 1995, it's officially the Presidio NRA, Presidio National Recreation Area. It's all civilian usage, it's parkland, it's residences. About 5,000 San Franciscans call the Presidio their home. Non-profit and for-profit entities. Those things pay the bills. You can't own a piece of property, though. It's all federal land. You're paying rent and lease to the Presidio Trust. They get to keep a portion of it to keep themselves alive and make a profit. It can be really expensive. These are probably on the right $10,000 a month, and they tend to be, short-term corporate rentals. If they're occupied at all. But this is called Pilot's Row on the right. If you were a biplane pilot in the teens or 20s, or maybe an Army officer, the U.S. Army Air Force, an Army officer, lower level, even in the early 90s, and that'd be a pretty nice place to live. Of course, they're fixed up compared to what they used to look like when I first came here in the early 90s.
I just had a cycle up there.
And how about a little aviation history while we're at it? Down there on the left, the orange roof with the cupola on top, I call that Amelia's control tower. Amelia Earhart landed there in 1927 at the U.S. Army Air Force Strip. First woman to complete a transcontinental flight, New York to San Francisco.
Every day, and I'm like,
And then here are our new viaducts, approaches to the Golden Gate Bridge.
I start at 8.
That's the
So I leave the house at 7.
Sometimes we'll see police horses in this corral on the left. And then the South African flower, the calla lily, which does very well in Mexico in relatively high altitude cloud forests. They're on the right. Not half bad here in Northern California. All the trees you see here are planted. Again, 50% sand dunelands. In the Army days, these were planted as, mainly as a courtesy to the residents of the city as a windbreak. Okay, let's get down close to sea level. Yeah, there are reclamation projects through here and more work to do. One of those called for a removal of the pet cemetery, and residents were up in arms. You can't remove San Francisco Pet Cemetery. These would have been pets of enlisted personnel of decades gone by. There is a cemetery for veterans. It's we call it the Arlington of the West. It's in the Presidio. We would have gone a different way to see that. But it's kind of fun in a way if you were a civilian. I mean, what about the pioneer cemeteries? Where were people buried in San Francisco in the 19th century? In the western half of the city, which was 80% sand dune lands. Then with the 1906 earthquake, we wanted that area for residential development. There were big cemeteries which were exhumed and then those folks reinterred south of the city in a little suburb called Colma. So, if you're a vet or a pet, you get to stay. If you're otherwise a civilian humanoid, forget it, you're out of luck. We've got a brewery in here now. Just before the sports basement. Now please, I implore you, do not attempt to cross the street. We don't want to stay here that long, and the traffic can really whiz by. I'll pull off here. Sun's going down, so I would say act quick. Here we go. Let me open the door. Lower it down, and we'll leave the engine on. Yeah, I'll see if I can assist some people with a little bit of photography. Yeah, just a quick picture or two, and we'll roll to the drop-off point.
Oh, the bridge in Sonoma.
Got it.
If I can get our bus out of park.
Women? No. We won't turn today. Yesterday. We were there all day yesterday.
And just hold them. I immediately feel the same way.
nice look at the trees on the palisades. And this is the way on the other side of the lagoon to the left. That's the way San Francisco looked before anything was built on the lake. Right on up over some of the highest streets. Got the right of way. some interior lights. And you should look around and get a few things. Don't leave anything on the bus. I'm going to turn them up a bit, make them a little harsher. Just
Are we
for a
almost
while.
there?
You know, the stereotypical item that people would leave on the tour bus in the 20th century were the sunglasses. Now I'm holding one up. I call these things that we all have sunglasses of the 21st century. I will put it away. Here's why, okay? I don't know for sure if there will be a place for me to park near a curb. There probably will, but if things are crowded, if I have to double park to let people off, I'll do it, you know? And then maybe there's somebody behind me and they're not real pleased, and they beep, and maybe they flash us some signs and cuss, something like that. But, you know, you're thinking, I want to get out of this situation. Let me get off this bus really quick and get out. That's when people forget things. Every week somebody leaves this. I mean, you're going to get your cell phone back, but boy, that's not the kind of stress you want to have.
No.
You keep it. You deserve it. Appreciate it. Think about us every time you do this.
Okay. Did you see?
No. I drank.
I drank.
We're going to the Cheesecake Factory. Yeah.
Down, you know, and then the other time.
You're going to meet Joe.
Oh, Joe's coming?
Yeah, Joe's coming.
Oh, yay.
And then we're going to hang out with Joe all day sometime.
Let me dip those lights.
Absolutely not. The focus. Playing James. We're playing DJ. Like, we seem like it is. Yeah. No. Oh, gosh.
The party. Go, girl. Freak out.
A sniper comes and shoots us all down.
Wait for it.
Come on in, yeah.
They basically
We walked over here. We walked to the wharf. You and me.
It's like 75% like that way. This way.
Come on in, yeah.
So like northeast is like here and it's like on the period.
Ghirardelli Square. It's a better pronunciation than Ghirardelli. Oh, well, once I heard a tourist asking somebody for directions from the attitude of responding to a person who's a local, but kind of an accent. Excuse me, sir, how do I get to Ghirardelli Square? That's Ghirardelli Square, sir. I raised my index to the actually Ghirardelli Square. That's why my nose is crooked.
What I guess is on my
There's a part of the bakery, blue section, simple love basketball.
How do I know?
For 3 years in a row, a few years back when I was torn down.
He's the one I'm dreaming about.
I rooted for the home team, of course. Very silent.
Sophisticated people ever seen that
All right, now look, if you come out with a lot of packages here, and you don't have anything to hold on your way down, just take the time to be out there and on the sidewalk, and if I have to try to catch you, I will. Every now and then, a swan dive occurs off of the bus, and I don't want anybody to be face first on the page. Once somebody else does it, once the swan dive, I think that's been in the Olympics for maybe 75 years. Never mind. Ah, we got a place to pull over. Okay, name of the company is Gray Line. My name is Doug. On behalf of the company and myself, thanks for being here today. And certainly generosity is appreciated. And here's our first stop.
What do you got?
This is like the last little bit.
You gotta get out of the park again, bear with me.
My favorite.
Yeah, Mom, you ready? I'm actually really happy we got this. It's normal.
I think you should carry in Elephant in Vegas.
Alright, well, we'll go by this place to Winery
Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say I really don't think you're strong enough now. Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough now. What's supposed to do? Sit around and wait for you, and I can't do that.
You see the Jared
You're the one.
I need time to move on.
That's so bad.
I need love, I need strong. But I was wrong, make it through. Maybe I can do for you. Oh, do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think this believe in life after love. Someone pick the next one. Feel something inside me say, I really don't think we're strong enough now. And I know that I am free. Hey, you're children. I really don't think it's strong enough now. Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think it's strong enough now. Do you believe in life after love? I can feel something inside me say, no. Do you believe in I'm gonna do I Wanna Dance. Actually, secretly feels stronger.
No, wrong card. We need an order. Yeah, we need it. Yeah, let's do ABBA. I feel like this is European. Maybe they'll be into the ABBA.
And we're coming up on Spires, the church and there's that cylinder called Clay Tower. Got a quick let's get into the intersection. Well, now which of these four spires has a small colony of coyotes living on it? Coyotes, yeah. So you have the Salesforce Tower in front of you and the financial district, that Transrail pyramid in front of you. You have the spires of the Church of St. Peter in front of you. You have quite observation tower in front of you on the left on Telegraph Hill. One of the four of those has a colony of coyotes that have decided to make the area around the structure their home. Telegraph Hill Clay Tower is the correct answer up there to the left. Just over the last couple of years, there's an article, here's a publication, it's called Bay Nature, and there's an article entitled, a couple of years ago, was entitled Wild Coyotes of Telegraph Hill.
away. When the night falls, my lonely heart goes. Oh, I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me. Oh, I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna feel the heat with somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody.
Mario's Bohemian Cigar Store Cafe, because one of my pet peeves is where do you get a good glass of wine in San Francisco nowadays for under $15 a glass? You can get a bad glass. I hate to say it, but Mario's, they got a little greedy too. It used to be you could get a fine bottle of Luciano from Italy, $7.50 they raised the price.
Come on down.
But that's still $7.50. Good. Bottle of Luciano, city, and an appellation, region, Tuscany. There's some cities. Combined, and I think, I mean, it's probably not the greatest pairing in the world. $9, $10 on an egg. Have my glass.
Oh, yeah, girl.
How do they do it? I think they have a global relationship.
With somebody who loves me.
Somebody.
Somebody who loves me.
We'll see this traffic. Looks like it's pretty gnarly going through Chinatown. It can be the fastest way to go at rush hour. I may change my mind and go to
When the night falls, my lonely heart calls. I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna be with somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me. Oh, I wanna dance with somebody. I wanna be with somebody. Yeah, I wanna dance with somebody. With somebody who loves me.
So we're just going to try an alternate route here. Because we're trying an alternate route for my friends who are going down to Harbor Court and out around the ferry building, we're actually going to make a bit closer pass. When we get to the closest pass I can make, I'm going to make a stop. Now, check this out. If you're looking for some musical entertainment tonight, there's our bus. But then there's also behind you on the left, North Beach, up on Grant Avenue in North Beach. Wonderful, wonderful. Jazz and blues, reasonably priced cover charges. Saxophone, a trumpet, a double bass, it can be the place to be. You know, they tend to be old timers, and I would tell you, your vocals are better right here in the bus. You know, it's kind of like, but blues, you gotta kind of sound like you're hurting. You gotta do the blues, it can work for them. Right? Now what do I want to say here? Yeah, we're right at the base of the Transamerica Pyramid. This was the shoreline in the Gold Rush. And then the clipper ships were on the left, the banks were on the right. Transamerica Pyramid. Some people think it has a rolling pipe foundation. Actually not true. It does have a skidding foundation because this was a fairly deep cove on the left. It was called River Cove. And when they went to build the pyramid, they assessed that underneath the landfill and the mud below that, they would just have that pounded the piling so far down to get to the bedrock that they will lost a lot of their tensile strength. At least they hope they could be back in the late 60s. So it has a skidding foundation. It has two big, thick blocks of steel and concrete.
I think we're done.
50 feet thick. The lower one is floating on some, like mud down there. And then there's an upper one, which is floating on the lower one, and the upper one is bolted to the surface of the pyramid. They say the thing will skid up to 10 feet in the event of an earthquake and come out standing. I guess it's great. My luck, I'll be on the sidewalk. I'll be the first person run over by the pyramid in make history. Fitting in.
Would you like that to go outside?
Well, I mean, I'm doing the best I can here. If I would have known that, these activity that I'm going to
Better than all the rest.
do the best I can. Let's see. We'll see. I may decide to go back towards Cherrytown with this street. If so, if I decide to take a right here, then I'm going to make it the Harvard stop. It's a tour guide's right to change his mind on my tour. Yeah, I'm just looking at it. It's just not moving. First thing it's going to make this turn. I don't know if I can do that.
Better than all the rest. Better than everyone. Everyone I ever met. I'm still trying to love. Hang on every word you say.
I'm just imagining Joe in a Cheesecake Factory at a bar alone.
What time is Joe getting there? Oh, he's there?
He needs to catch up, to be fair.
Sweet, I'm at the bar, see you in a bit. That was 15 minutes ago.
He needs a few drinks.
He needs a- Oh, if there's anyone to be alone in a bar, it's
I think.
I'm taking the schminky to do this.
Oh. This is very American Psycho.
Don't you want me, baby?
Yeah. No.
You were working as a waitress in a cocktail bar. Looking up at you. Someone new. Don't you want me? Don't you want me?
What if these like
You better take it back on. Don't you want me, baby? Don't you want me? Oh, don't you want me, baby? Don't you want me? Oh, as a waitress in a cocktail bar, but she's true. And even then, you want to
Sing it.
Don't you want me, baby? Don't you want me? Oh.
Okay, I'm going to get us out of here, and we're going to detour entirely over Knob Hill. Now, this is going to be a tight corner, and you may hear a little bump. I may take some of the curb in order to do this without bumping the car. So be prepared.
Do it, lad.
Play some little nonsense. Oh, this is
So we'll go over Knob Hill, we'll double back from there to Union Square, then we can scoot out to Japan.
Never came to Union Square. Oh, it's decent. It would go right, it's like right on Pablo.
Tonight we're gonna make it happen.
Tonight we're gonna put our things aside.
This is like we are literally having a wedding. This is like when your arm gets
We're
married.
going to take a little bit of the curve.
Feel you, wrap my arm around you. I'm so excited, I just can't hide it. I'm about to lose control and I think I like it. I'm so excited, I just can't hide it. I know, I want you. Memories will last a long, long time. We'll have a good time, baby, don't you worry.
I think we're doing a fitness class.
Yeah.
That's just fine.
Let's get excited. I just can't hide it. I think I like it.
Sorry, bro. 2914.
Just waiting at the bar of a restaurant. We're 42, we're fine. Joe's a real lad.
Play Charlotte.
I'm so excited. I want you.
It's a hard today.
This is Dolly Parker.
Switch it up.
What do we want?
Some poster ones.
We haven't.
I just haven't seen. I just haven't seen.